it up and you.
What's going on, faithfuls? It's your boy Nick over here at Nothing But Niners, also joined by Nothing But Niners crew members Abel, Ali, and Zach. What is going on, Zach?
How's it going, buddy? Good to be
Good,
here.
good, man. Good. Hey, Ali, what's going on, man?
What's up, Nick? How you doing tonight?
Hey, man, I'm chilling like always, man. Ready to talk some Niners, man. We're like, what, 2 weeks
course,
away,
man.
so
Less than.
it's getting exciting. And then we have the man of the hour, Mr. Uber himself. Abel, what's going on, buddy?
Tell nobody, man. People try to get me fired.
Hey, that's all right. It's all good. As long as you're like rapping like Ali B out there, you're good to go, buddy.
I actually had a girl flowing in the car last night, dude. It was sick.
Yeah,
she
see,
put
that's awesome.
slow blue station, dude, and she ripped it like for good 5 minutes, just flowed. Sick.
That's awesome. So, guys, man, thanks for joining me tonight, man. I just needed to get some stuff out of my system here. We need to talk some Niners, man. And I wanted to talk about. I wasn't lucky enough to join Benjamin Allbright on the podcast with Tony and Mike today or yesterday, but I want to hear what your guys' discussion or what your feelings are on that discussion, and you know, let's see what your guys' opinions is on that, because Kirk has to sign the tag tomorrow, or he's going to be a free agent in 2018. So we'll start off with Abel. Abel, what are your feelings on that podcast and what Allbright had to say?
He made a lot of sense on a bunch of stuff he said. I mean, you know, when he spoke about Kirk and Kyle's relationship, I think to me that's the strongest thing about this whole. It kind of gets glanced over by a lot of people. Like, people aren't acknowledging that that's a factor that could bring him over to San Francisco and get him paid. I mean, he's going to get paid regardless. So why not go play with somebody you feel is going to make you the best at your position?
Right. So he had a lot of interesting opinions, and it was funny too, because Mike also did that inside there with Tony, which is our resident GM, was gave him a comparison, and that comparison was who Allbright was talking about was Phillip Rivers and Kirk Cousins, and you know, the comparison is kind of weird to me, because you don't think of, when you think Kirk Cousins, you don't think Phillip Rivers. So what was your feeling on when he was talking about Kirk Cousins is able to take a team right now to win a Super Bowl in the right type of scheme? Do you think the 49ers are the right type of scheme for him?
Okay.
Yeah, Abel.
I definitely do. Definitely. With him and Kyle, I mean, I think Kirk Cousins right now is a quarterback that can take a team to the Super Bowl. Now, with his current team, he's going to need some help. But with Kyle, I think Kyle can bring the best out of him, and the players around him don't have to be as good. I think he's the only person that can get Kirk to elevate players around him. So I think in Kyle's system, Kirk can definitely, with a stout defense, with the way our defensive front seven's starting to look like it's building, definitely I think they can win the Super Bowl with it.
Okay. Interesting. Ali, what are your thoughts on what Benjamin Allbright had to say today?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. He made it sound, from what the questions Mike was asking, he was kind of probing him a little bit, that it's almost all but certain now, after 1 p.m. tomorrow, that Kirk is most likely going to be a Niner next year, because that's definitely looking like where it's heading, and that's what makes this year very interesting for Niners fans to keep an eye on Washington games as well this year, because most likely our future quarterback is probably going to be is playing on Sunday, and he's in a Redskins uniform at the moment. But you know, I saw that comparison that they were doing, and you know, definitely I think just to pick up where Abel was leaving off with that, I think that Kyle can definitely work wonders with Kirk, just like he did with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, before Kyle Shanahan, was a different quarterback. wasn't as cerebral as he was the past season. Kyle Shanahan in 2 years transformed Matt Ryan in what you could arguably say he is a top 5 to 7 quarterback in this league. You know, could say top 5. Last year he played like a top 5 quarterback in this league. And if and when Kirk comes here, I could definitely see the same outcome, and in Shanahan's system mold Kirk into something like they had back in Atlanta with Matt Ryan. So yeah, that's what I thought about what Benjamin and where I see this heading as well.
Okay, so with what you said, I have 2 questions. One question being, do you think Kirk Cousins will be a 49er next year? And if so, or what's your opinion on it as him becoming a 49er next year? And if so, why? And number 2, it's kind of interesting because you were talking about him and Kirk in Kyle Shanahan's system, knowing that system. And the reason that I think that Kyle Shanahan's going to go after Kirk Cousins is because if you recall, they drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins in the same draft, right? So, what are your thoughts on? And we'll take this. We'll go to Zach first and see what his thoughts are. But I want to come back. So think about that question: as in, do you think Kirk Cousins will be a 49er this year in 2018? And if so, Mike and Tony discussed that on the pod as to him being the first fully guaranteed contract, and if he's not fully guaranteed, what would you give him? What kind of contract you'd give him? So think about those 2 questions, and we'll come back to those. But I want to get what Zach is feeling on the Allbright's podcast and see what he thought about what Benjamin had to say.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of interesting stuff to bring to the table. The one thing that he kind of kept saying was that it's all but happening. You know, it's pretty much inevitable at this point, short of a stupendous offer from Dan Snyder. But the one question I have is, what are the chances of Dan Snyder giving him that stupendous offer just out of spite? I mean, we've seen it multiple times that he really doesn't like that Kyle is having success away from the Redskins and that's not his coach anymore, or his whatever you want to call what he was in Washington. But I think, you know, what are the chances that he actually does give Kirk Cousins a crazy offer, best offer in NFL history for quarterback at the time, you know? Because that's the only thing at this point keeping Kirk in Washington is if that happens. So I can't help but think, what are the chances that does happen?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. So, so I want you to think about those same 2 questions that I asked Ali, and we'll come back to that. And Abel, you as well. But we'll start off with Ali because he already knows these 2 questions, and I'll let Abel and Zach think about that. And Ali, so the first question was, does Kirk Cousins, in your opinion, does Kirk Cousins become a 49er in 2018?
I'll do you one better. I think there's a slight window that Kirk might be a 49er this year.
Really?
And the reason why I say that is because you're like around training camp or just a little bit afterwards, if the Redskins say, like, you know, we are going to lose him for nothing, why not get something for him when his value right now is at its highest what we can get? If they transition tag him, I don't think they get anything. I believe they don't get anything. If they and they're not going to franchise tag him, right? Because the transition tag carries a lower value. If they franchise tag him the next year, what is it, like 30 million or something? So I think that it's a very real possibility that they could move him at this year. And I've heard from everything I'm hearing, I've heard that Jay Gruden really likes Colt McCoy. And I don't know if you guys have heard the same thing. I've heard that Colt McCoy, they like Colt McCoy, and they don't mind going with Colt McCoy. So I think that there's a possibility that he could join this year, but I think it's about 95%. Oh, it's more than that. It's like it's 100% that he's coming to the Niners next year.
Okay, that's kind of interesting that you said trade for him this year. I mean, that's going to cost us a lot. So I don't think that. I mean, I personally don't think we're going to trade for him, but it is a scenario that could happen. But I think it also depends on what happens with Brian Hoyer this year. I mean, when you do that, when you go trade halfway through, if Brian Hoyer's playing well and they go and trade for Kirk Cousins and bring Kirk Cousins in to start, that's going to take the culture that we're trying to build right now and flip it. So it's either, I mean, I don't see it being done before the end of season. I think that it will be something that's done after the season, only for that fact, because it's going to throw the culture around where they're going to be like, okay, well, this organization, we can't even trust them. Like Hoyer's playing well, yet they still trade for Cousins, and I mean, it's just going to flip the locker room. So that's my opinion on that. But I wanted to touch base with Zach and see what Zach thinks. Zach, Ali said that it's 100% guaranteed that Kirk Cousins is a 49er in 2018. Do you agree?
I do. I think it's a pretty high percentage. I'd say up in the 90s. We know there's kind of a love affair, you could call it, between Kyle and Kirk. They both play well together. They're comfortable together. They know they can succeed together. And the scenario is kind of brewing perfectly right now in San Francisco to where it'll be the perfect environment by the time Kirk is ready to sign elsewhere, to where he can just kind of come in and hopefully, I mean, I might sound a little biased and optimistic here, but hopefully a good start, a solid quarterback will be the only piece that is left needed to elevate this team to, say, possibly a playoff spot, possibly a wild card spot. So I think it's all but going to happen. You know, it's pretty high percentage chance wise, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they take a quarterback high in the next draft as well, even if they sign Kirk Cousins, just like they drafted two in the first or in the same draft when they took Kirk Cousins and RG3. I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead and took, you know, a quarterback in next year's draft with their first pick along with Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Yeah, so you're kind of on the same standard as I am, and you don't think they'll trade for him this year, but they will sign him in the offseason for the year of 2018. So, Abel, you've been sitting back there all nice and quiet and listening to what Ali and Zach have to say. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I had a question for you first. Like you brought up the culture. Who's to say that we don't have that same problem next year? Like, let me give you a scenario. Brian Hoyer overachieves. He's on a 2-year contract, right? So he overachieves, and let's say, you know, whatever, like I hope we get 10 wins. Don't we kind of have that same scenario next year if Cousins comes in? We just had a quarterback that led us to 10 wins, and we're going to replace him. So if we have it now, like, does it set back the culture if we do it then, as opposed to doing it now? Because I don't know if there's a lot of players on our team that would think Hoyer's a better quarterback than Kirk right now, especially if we did it before he actually showed that he could play better or lead this team better than Kirk. What they've already seen Kirk do, I think now would be the best time to do it, trade for him, because they know flat out now he's a better, even if it's by a little bit, they know Kirk, or at least I would hope they would think Kirk is a better quarterback.
Yeah, so I agree with you, but I think that destroying the culture mid-season compared to end of season would be a little bit different. So they could easily, if Hoyer doesn't play well or Hoyer plays well, this could not even be a topic of conversation. It's just a matter of, does Kyle Shanahan does he want Kirk Cousins that bad that he's going to go out and get him no matter what? Or what did they tell Hoyer? They could have told Hoyer, hey, you're a 1 to 2 year quarterback here, not guaranteeing anything. This is what our plans are. We don't know what's said behind closed doors, but I don't think the culture will be as screwed up if you wait till the offseason compared to midseason. Now, if he gets hurt and they don't think that Beathard or Barkley can step in and play, which I think Beathard has a better arm than Hoyer. I mean, not Beth. Well, probably Beathard does too, but Barkley has a better arm than Hoyer for a deep ball. But I don't think the culture will change doing it midseason or after the season as bad as it will for midseason. Do you agree with that, Abel? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I don't know. Because I think, what we always hear about NFL players is they want to win. They want the coaches that put them in the best positions to win, and they want the players that put them in the best position to win. Like when we had the whole Alex and Cap scenario, a lot of players like Joe Staley didn't like the switch, but a lot of people at the time, other players, Vernon Davis, did like it. So I don't know if we're going to have a split regardless. Mm-hmm. I feel. And if it gives us a chance to win now, I'd say do it because I feel like they're going to have that rift regardless. The only way they wouldn't is if just Hoyer bombs out. I mean, just we look at 4 wins and they can't get him out the door fast enough. Then by all means, bring Kirk in.
Right.
But we have a chance to get him because it's free agency. Even if I do believe he's going to come over here in free agency, it's not a guaranteed. We're talking money. There's other teams that can offer just as much if they want him as bad. I mean, there's always a workaround. I don't think money ever really holds back NFL. There's always a workaround around contracts to fit someone in if you want them bad enough. We could have fit Peyton Manning in back in the day without the room if we really wanted him, if he wanted to come here.
Right. Yeah. And it's a risky business with money wise like that. They always figure out a way to do it, whether it be cut a player, save money, or load the back end of the contract. So I agree with you. I think the only thing that worries me about the whole situation is money. This guy, if he signs this franchise tag another year, he's going to be up to $30 million. This guy's made over $40 million in 2 years just off of tags. So, and what's his play going to be like this year? I mean, I'm not saying that he had 2 of the best receivers there, but he had a good receiving core, which now has dropped down to Jordan Reed, which he was hurt last year, and Terrell Pryor. Now, Terrell Pryor is a great receiver, making that transition from quarterback to receiver, but he's not a smooth, crisp route runner. He's a burner. He's going to go deep. He can run some routes. I'm not mocking him. For his first year as a receiver coming from quarterback, he played well. But I'm going to ask Zach this. Zach, is Kirk Cousins' numbers going to decline because of what he lost?
I think they will. I think when you look at Kirk, he's one of those that is a beneficiary of his environment. He was surrounded with a pretty star-studded, I don't want to say star-studded, but above average wide receiver core. He had Deshaun Jackson. He had Jameson Crowder, Jordan Reed, all of these speedy wide receivers. And I know Pro Football Focus had dropped a graphic the other day saying that Terrell Pryor had the same exact production on deep routes as Deshaun Jackson, but I don't think the consistency is there. I know Deshaun Jackson has his injury problems, but it's just, I think Kirk's numbers will drop. I don't think his production will be as high. I think the guy's still a great quarterback. I just think the talent around him will drop. Therefore, his numbers will drop. But it'll be interesting to see how he reacts. And maybe that'll be, what is the deciding factor for our team as whether they feel he's worth going after or not is him playing in distress, him playing without a star-studded cast, and whether he can elevate the talent of those around him.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to get stuck on that too much, but I agree with your assessment there. But so that leads us to the next question. So since we're all pretty dominant that Kirk Cousins is going to be a 49er next year, what's the contract we give him? He's 28 years old right now. So, Abel, we'll start off with you on this one. what kind of contract do we give Kirk Cousins to become a San Francisco 49er?
Well, because it's not my money, I say give him as much as we can. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah, but let's be realistic.
Whatever it takes to get him here. That's my realistic number, because he's 29, and people throw that out like he's a running back. He's a 29-year-old quarterback going on 30. If we can get 8 years out of him, then it's worth it. We get a year out of him, a couple trips to the playoffs, maybe a Super Bowl, whatever. In the end, it's all worth it. Right now, he's going to be the highest paid quarterback no matter what we pay him. So we're looking at what Derek Carr's $25 million is what we're looking at. I mean, that's the base. Unless we do what Mike was talking about earlier in the podcast, the guaranteed contract, then we can go lower yearly, but overall it's still going to be full. It's going to be more guaranteed money. So if we're looking at just the way they're structured right now, we have to beat 25 million. That's a go. Maybe highest 27 million.
Okay. So Abel said, and how many years is that?
What was Derek Carr's? What was I'd say, go what, 5 years? 5 years for that?
5 years, and I think he got 56 million guaranteed.
Yeah. So it would have to be something like, because they don't usually, quarterbacks just want to outdo one another. So I'd have to be, if it's 56 million guaranteed, 58, 60, whatever guaranteed.
Well, definitely the go amount rate right now for a quarterback is around that 24, 25 million a year. But one of our fans watching, Faithful_49, says he would give him a 4-year contract at 15 mil a year. So I think to get him to that 15 million a year,
guaranteed. If we're talking about the whole contract being guaranteed,
that's what he said. 4-year contract, 15 million a year, and that's what I was just about to say. He's definitely going to want more than that. And the only way you're going to get him, I think you could probably get him to like 18 or 17 million a year if it's a fully guaranteed contract.
Right.
I don't think you're going to get him to that as with incentives and stuff like that. So we got a lot of guys watching in here tonight. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's watching and right now. So we got Guru, who was actually our first caller on the podcast, first calling. So thanks for joining, guys. And also got Faithful49. He's in here as well. Go Hard is always in here. Appreciate you guys. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, just set them up on the live chat, and we'll answer them over here as well as we can. So, but thanks for joining, guys, like that, and I appreciate that. But Ali, so let's go with you and see what you're going to give Kirk Cousins. So we have Abel had said 27 max. Abel, it was 27 max a year.
Yeah, 27.
Okay, and what's your years going to be, Ali, and contract amount?
I do a 4-year, 25 million, and I just make the guaranteed number larger. I'd give him 60 million guaranteed or 61 million guaranteed. So I'd make that guaranteed number larger. I know that's key, but he's our quarterback of the future for the next 4 years while we draft a quarterback or whatever is developing. Kind of like how similar. You remember how Green Bay did it with Brett Favre, and then they had Brett Favre, and he was on his last few years, and that while Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of similar to that. I think we should do something like that. So 4 years, around the third or fourth year, if our new guy's ready to take that we draft is ready to take over, then that'll be great. But I think a 4-year, just making the guaranteed number larger.
Okay. And Zach, what is your what's your opinion on that?
Something pretty much the same. I was thinking 4-year, 26.5 million, comes out at 106 million after 4 years. I would say probably somewhere along the lines of 56 million guaranteed, 57. They're always aiming just to beat the contract right before them. So as long as he gets that headline, I think he's fine. I think he just wants to be known as the highest. I mean, and any player does. It's kind of a little competition, I guess you could call it, but just so he can be called the highest paid player or highest paid quarterback in history at the time. I would say around 26.5 a year over 4 years, 56 guaranteed.
Okay. So they're all decent numbers. They're all reasonable numbers for his type of play. One other question two other questions before we move on from the subject of Kirk Cousins, but I'm just going to ask this really, really fast, and we'll just go through with a yes or no answer. So, one, if Kirk Cousins comes to this team, does it automatically make us a contender with what we have right now, just adding Kirk Cousins? And two, do you think if his play drops this year, that his money will drop next year, or it'll still be based off the 2 years that he's had? And people will look at it as he had a down year because he lost weapons. So just recap 2 questions. Do we automatically become a contender for playoffs and Super Bowl adding Kirk Cousins to this team? And if Kirk Cousins falls off the cliff this year, does he still get the type of money we're talking about, or does that significantly drop? So we'll go with Abel first. And Abel, what do you think of those?
Yes, because then we now have the second best quarterback in our division. So I like the chances of making the playoffs that way.
Okay. Ali?
Yeah, I definitely think we would be a contender this year.
So we go from that 9-7 to that 12-4.
Not that high. I'd say maybe 10 and 6 or 11 or 11 and 5, 10 and 6. But I don't know. You know what? 12 and if we have Kirk Cousins, honestly, your 12-4 prediction, I'm with you on that. I'm there. I could see that. You know, I don't see why. Kirk Cousins is what, a top 15 QB in this league, top 10 maybe. And adding him to this team that is, you know, kind of all coming together at the same time, right? We have a bunch of new players. Everyone's coming together at the same time. So it's not like we have a core and we're adding players to it right now. This core is all coming together. So I think they will grow together, and you know, it could you know, who's to say? I think we could be competing for that. I think we would win the NFC West if we add Kirk Cousins this year.
Okay, and I have another question for Abel, but I'm going to get to that after I talk to Zach. So, Zach, what are your thoughts on those 2 things?
I think he makes us a contender. I agree with Abel that we would definitely have the second best quarterback if we were to add Kirk. Carson Palmer's aging, and Jared Goff is nowhere near where the Rams wanted him to be by now. I think 10, 11 wins wouldn't be out of the question. I mean, we upgraded the wide receiving core. They've upgraded the defensive line. They're adding talent at just about every position. So I think you add Kirk Cousins in, where a team that isn't as far behind as a lot of people are saying they are, I think we do end up as contenders.
Okay. And before we get to that second part of that question, you and Abel both just said adding Kirk Cousins, we would have the second best quarterback in this league in the NFC West right now, right? So who's the second best quarterback in the NFC West right now?
Palmer.
Yeah, pretty much by default. If he's up, right.
I disagree with you. Palmer's numbers have completely went down in the last 4 years. Palmer's on his way out. Not out of Arizona, but retirement.
So
I don't think
Hoyer
he's. I think Hoyer's the best quarterback in the NFC, second best quarterback in the NFC West right now.
Wow.
And if you look at the last 17 games, the article that Grant Cohn put out, the numbers will provide that for you. So that's my opinion. I think that Goff is nowhere near where he should be. And I'm not saying that Goff isn't going to be a better quarterback than Brian Hoyer eventually. But Carson Palmer's numbers have drastically dropped. whether that's from injury, just throwing more interceptions, being on his back more, the team around him. That team, I believe that every team, I believe that the Rams are on the up because of Wade Phillips in the defense. They're finally going to have a coach that actually can coach that defense, and they have a lot of young talent. Offensively, they're not either going backwards or forward yet. I still see them at kind of a stale. And I see the Seahawks on the decline, and Arizona on a decline, and the Niners on an incline, not upcline, but an incline. So they're on the up. But I would have to disagree with you that we would have the second best quarterback if we brought Kirk Cousins in, right? So I would have to say that Hoyer, I think Hoyer doesn't get, and I say this all the time, this isn't about Hoyer, but the past doesn't define us, right? As a quarterback, there's a lot that goes into partake for that. So scheme is 1, players around you is 2, coaching is 3, and schedule is 4, right? So I believe that Hoyer has upgraded in all 4 of those aspects by coming to San Francisco. I believe the team is good. Like around him, we've added some weapons. They're not top tier, top 10 weapons, but we've added some weapons. I believe that the coaching staff, who's going to be coaching him and being with Kyle Shanahan and being familiar with the system, is going to help him. It's going to make him feel like more of a leader teaching this type of stuff, which is only going to better his leadership in the locker room. Not playing in cold weather as much as he was in Chicago or Cleveland. And I feel like I feel like he has better personnel around him and a better offensive line. So I think that Brian Hoyer's ship hasn't been written yet, and I think it'll be written as a 49er. So that's my true feeling on that.
So then was there a scenario then where you would want Hoyer extended and we just skip Kirk altogether?
It really depends. And I'm not completely sold on bringing Kirk in here yet. I think people can call me crazy all they want, and I'll make sure I look over at the comments in the live chat in a second. But I do believe that Hoyer's going to surprise a lot of people this year. I believe that he is going to take this team under his wing and be something that not everybody expects. And the best part about the whole situation is the Niners are in rebuild mode. So a lot of people aren't having they're not real optimistic about this team, right? They're saying 4 wins, 5 wins. Some people are saying 9 wins. Some people are saying 6. We did the betting thing on the article that you wrote on Bet on the 49ers above 4.5 wins. Yourself was 10 wins. Ali was 10 wins. I think, Zach, you were 9-7, right? 9-7.
I had 9.
And I'm not going to say what mine is because mine is a lot higher than 10-6.
Attaboy.
So I really feel that this defense, I think that last year, yes, our offense wasn't as good as we think it should have been because I actually thought it would have been better with Chip Kelly. But if you think about it, we scored on an average of 14 to 17 points as an offense last year, right? Which was horrible. But if you go back and you look at all our games, we were in every single game into the second half. Okay? Second half came down. Our defense got tired, but they were also backup players. They were players that should have been playing in the CFL that were playing on that field. And I'm talking the likes of our linebacking core. We had a lot of injuries. Our offensive line was hurt. We had guys switching from center to tackle to guard all over the place, right? So I don't think this team is as bad as people think. I think there's a lot of young talent on this team. They weren't coached correctly, and their defensive style was a stand up, look for the play, wait 2 seconds, and then shed. They weren't aggressive. I think this defense is going to carry this team this year, and I think they're going to surprise the hell out of a lot of people. And I think we're going to pull out possibly 2 extra wins just because of our defense. So I'm going 12-4 this year. I'm going 12-4.
I like it.
So you guys can, everybody can laugh at me. Everybody can say whatever they want. I know if Madrid's watching this, he's going to say you're fucking nuts. But guys, just like I said, your past doesn't define your future. So give this guy a shot. We'll see what happens. And if he plays like shit and his team plays like shit, I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not trying to be unrealistic. Okay. I looked at everything. I wouldn't go out there and say that, but I'm being optimistic as possible with what I saw this team play like last year. So I think there's a lot of good talent. I think we've upgraded in a lot of positions that we need to. This isn't about that, but I do think that Brian Hoyer right now is the second best quarterback in the NFC West. So, but we'll go on to that second question, as in the second question of the Kirk Cousins thing. So, yes, you guys all say that he's going to make us a contender. Does the money that he receives in this up contract, if he doesn't sign his franchise tomorrow and he has a horrible season, so let's say he drops just his quarterback ratings and everything drop, is he still getting that type of money? Abel, what do you think?
I think he is, because he has a built-in excuse. I mean, like you said, he lost his receiver. So, we've used that excuse for other people that, all of a sudden they don't have weapons around them. So it's an excuse for poor play. He'd get the same built-in default excuse, because if he loses Garcon and Sean Jackson, what's he going to have? And he's got basically a former quarterback as his star receiver now. I mean, what can you really expect out of that? So he has an excuse. I don't think his stats are going to drop that much, though. Maybe his yards, he's not going to be as close to 5,000, but touchdowns, 25 and 12, interceptions, I think he's going to be around the same thing, if anything. That would be a drop-off, because he's been progressively getting better. So if he keeps around there, yardage just dips, but he'll be all right.
Okay.
Now, money-wise, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, but money-wise, I mean, you know how contracts are done. They take the whole body of work. Any positive that the agent can use in their favor, they're going to bring up. So if he has even a horrible season next year, they're going to focus on the previous 2 years when he did have talent around him and he had the numbers to reflect it. So I don't think, honestly, whatever happens to him, if he hits the market, because he's a quarterback and viewed as a franchise quarterback, he's going to get top dollar regardless of how he played. I mean, let's look at Sam Bradford. He didn't play for a while, and he still garnered a first-round pick just because he has that label of a franchise quarterback, a potential franchise quarterback.
Right. So, Ali, what do you think?
Well, I think that he gets, even if he has a horrible year, it doesn't really affect his value of what he'll get. The only thing that will affect Kirk Cousins' value next year is if he has an injury. That's the only thing. If Kirk gets an injury this year, he blows his ACL, he has a couple concussions, that's the only thing that will drop his value, in my opinion.
Okay. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely. Injuries, a serious injury, season-ending injury, that's the only thing that's going to drop this guy's value. The way contracts are constantly rising year to year, I think even if he goes out and has a shit season, like Abel was saying, he has a built-in excuse already there. And even with contracts rising, he could have a shit season and his value, we're going to say, might not go up, but it's not going to go down because the contract value around him is still rising. So I think even if he has a shit season, that value isn't going to go down much at all.
Okay. All right. So, folks, there you have it with the Kirk Cousins talk. So, yeah, I guess that's all we can talk about with Kirk. So, Kirk doesn't sign his franchise tag. He signs as a 49er next year in the 25 to 27 million range.
Let me ask you this before we finish Cousins talk. What do you think Washington's going to do this year? What's your guys' record without looking at their schedule, just off what you think of Kirk Cousins' performance last year? How do you think Washington does this year? Because he was blamed last year for them not making the playoffs when they lost that game last year against the Giants. What do you think? How do you think, as being an outsider, not paying attention really to Washington? I'll go first. I'll give you my prediction. I think they go similar to last year. I think they're an 8-8 team, 8-8 to 7-9 even. And the reason why is I don't think that defense is strong enough. They have Josh Norman, but that defense, I don't think there's enough talent on that defense yet to take them with more wins, especially in that division too. With Dallas on the where they are, and Giants where they are, and the Eagles have a good defense. The Eagles are going to be a good team this year. But what do you guys think? Zach, what do you think?
I think they could even go 9-7, 10-6, but I don't think they make the playoffs. I think, like you said, they're in a tough division. I think Dallas ends up winning that division, and possibly the Giants, if two teams come out of that into the NFC playoffs. I think it's going to be Dallas and New York. The wide receiver core that the Giants have is just ridiculously talented. I don't think the Redskins are comparable when it comes talent-wise. I think the surrounding cast around Kirk just isn't there for him. So I think even if they go 9-7, 10-6, I think they still miss the playoffs.
Okay. I'm going to be different than you guys, and I'm going to say that Washington has a huge drop-off because of what Philadelphia has added, what Dallas has added, and what the Giants have added. So I'm going to go 6-10. Ava, what do you think?
I'm with you on that. I think their record's going to be on the lower end, but I don't think it's going to reflect necessarily that they're a poor team. I think that they're just in a division where those teams beat each other up left and right, that they have every team in that division has a hard time getting out of it. So they're going to have a couple losses, but they're still going to be a stout team. So, I'll give them 8-8.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the reason why I say so low is because the likes of the receivers that the Giants added, giving Eli more of a depth at that receiving position across from Odell. Their defense is really, really good as well. Dallas is Dallas, and they're growing. And Philadelphia's going to shock some people this year, I think. So,
I think Philly's going to be good this year too. But does everyone have us beating Washington this year? Hands up. Who's got us beating Washington this year?
I think I
think consensus.
Hey, I'm already on the right track with 1-0. So no, guys, I think that I do think that little stretch is going to hurt us though. Where we're in Philly or in Washington, back to California, back to Philly. I think that stretch will hurt us. I think we'll lose a game or so in there, but yeah. So there you guys have it. So Kirk Cousins joins the 49ers next year. From most of the opinions from the Nothing But Niners crew, at a $25 million a year contract, $25 to $27 million contract. The terms of his contract don't go down if he has a fluke year. And Brian Hoyer is the second best quarterback in NFC West. So just had to throw that plug in there. But no, really. All right, so before we move on, let's talk one more quarterback. Let's talk Brian Hoyer. And I just want to hear what you guys think that this guy is capable of doing. And I'll give you my stats for this year. And you guys can write them down and we'll see how close we are. But this will just be a little bet against us. So I think Hoyer's going to throw for 3,800 yards this year. I'll say 32 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Yeah. So 3,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. That's my stats for Hoyer.
Generous, my man. Generous.
I don't know. It's doable, man.
Well, as far as the touchdowns, 32. I mean, I want him. If he gets 32, by all means, bring him on. I just think.
Yeah, I'll say 28 to 32. That's a better range. 28 to 32 touchdowns with 14 interceptions. All right. So that's a 50%. 28. We'll go 28-14. All right. 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So
I've always liked Brian Hoyer.
3,800 yards isn't that hard. And when was the last time we had a 3,800 yard passer in San Francisco?
Garcia?
Yeah. Do you guys realize if he comes out and throws for 3,800 yards,
which isn't that bad?
How many fans hate him right now, and how many fans will be on his ass side? So, what do you think for stat table?
Yeah, that honestly, I keep your yards. 3,800 sounds good. It's just the touchdowns. I'm gonna say around 24. I don't know why I have it so low. I think we're going to be very run-based, so I think our running back touchdowns are going to spike. So, he's got to give on his end. Okay. Interception-wise, 10.
All right, so 24 and 10. All right, so I'm going to write that down just so I can see who's closer this year. Ali, what do you think? Quick answer on
that. 26 touchdowns. I'm gonna put his interception rate lower than a lot of people think. I think he'll only throw about 7 interceptions this year. 7 to 8 interceptions.
How many yards?
I think we're gonna be a run heavy team. So put his yards a little bit lower. I think maybe 3,500 yards, 3,600 yards.
Okay, so 35, 36 with you said 24 and 7, right? 24 touchdowns, 20 interceptions.
Yeah.
All right. I want you guys to send these to me too. What you guys think? So, Zach, what do you think?
Something along the. I was thinking 3,250 yardage wise, maybe 22 touchdowns, and I'll say about 10 picks.
Okay, so we're all in that little bubble. We're all in that little range there, So, I think we are going to be a run-based team, but I think we're going to throw the ball a lot more than you think too, with the speedy receiver zone we have on the outside. But the run game is going to set up that play action, which Kyle Shanahan's known for, and I think that's going to help our receivers. And I think most of his yards are going to come from that. You're going to get that 2. Hopefully, we get those 1 to 2 50-yard bomb touchdowns for the rest of the year. So. That we're not used to seeing. So that's enough with Cousins. I think we'll end this. And if you guys are up for it, we can jump on real quick and we can talk about we'll talk about Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster and what our expectations are on them. So guys, if you're watching now, we're just gonna stop real quick. We're gonna take a break. Gonna jump right back on. We're gonna talk Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas, in which has not signed with the 49ers, signed his contract yet. So above all else, stay faithful. We out.